Alex, we're back again. We're still doing this show.
It's a Monday. We're doing the show, as is our custom.
Yep, we just shuffle our way to our desks and we just show up at this point.
Just kind of wander in, just sort of plop down in front of the computer. All right, what the fuck are we doing now? What do we talk about? I don't know. I played some games. Fuck it. And then an hour later, somehow the show pops out. I don't know how that happens. I still don't really understand the process, if I'm honest with you.
You just sit down and somehow a thing shows up on the site.
Yeah, it's just like blah blah blah, and then content. I don't know. It's magical. It's like pixie dust.
People don't realize that is basically the entire Giant Bomb formula.
Yeah, pretty much. It's blah blah content. That's
Yep.
it. And that's it's there's some equal signs and like a squared in there, and then and then just magic. Pwah!
Shouldn't have given away that our secret sauce. It's damn.
If people haven't figured it out by now, that's not really my fault, is it?
Well, that's why sometimes on Monday we're joined by people who are actually doing real stuff and know what they're doing and seem to have talent and motivation. So that's why we brought Sentris developer Samantha Kalman onto the show today. Thanks for joining us, Samantha.
Hi guys, it's really good to be here. I also have to say that like the blah blah publishing content is one of the reasons I love Giant Bomb. So like, please don't ever change.
Hey, we didn't say it didn't work.
Yeah.
That is not at a dispute. 5 years in, clearly, people like some blah blah.
Doing something right with the blah blah.
Hard to put that on a resume, though.
I don't know. I feel like I've looked at resumes like when I've been working at companies, and when I look at resumes, it's usually a lot of like blah blah blah.
Okay, that's
all right.
My entire LinkedIn profile is basically just a series of fart noises.
It works because it's a web format.
Exactly. Yes, and the number of opportunities those fart noises have afforded me is fantastic.
Yeah, you made it this far, so you might as well not question it, I guess.
I certainly don't.
Jeez. Samantha, so for people that don't know, you were on the Bombcast not too long ago.
Yeah.
You've launched Sentris in early access, but if for some reason they don't know what Sentris is, could you kind of give us the elevator pitch?
Sure. So I'm an independent developer based in Seattle. I used to work for Unity. I dropped by the Bombcast over the summer when I was sort of like getting ready to do it was like my first press tour as an indie. So a couple months later, I put my game Sentris on early access. It's a musical puzzle game. I was really inspired by games like Rez and Rock Band, and also Tetris and also Street Fighter, to kind of and also influenced by my own experiences trying to learn how to play music and having friends that are musicians help me learn how to play music, to sort of wanted to make Sentris into a game that helps people make music in an authentic way, where the song that you make as you play is uniquely yours. So it's a bunch of circles, like it's a loop metaphor, and every block is a sound, and you basically build your own song one note at a time. And there's like a puzzle element to solve, which is like a color matching or a space filling, like rhythmic elements and pitch elements. I don't want to pitch too hard though. If you're curious, check it out on Steam. I'll say that.
I really enjoy games like this because as someone that at one point picked up a guitar, paid for lessons, and then put it down because this takes time and effort, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not going to do this. I've really enjoyed the rise of music games that are made just for me, which is, are you too lazy to learn how to make music? Would you like to feel powerful and have the ability to make music? See, the power fantasy I want is to be able to make music while having zero talent or ability or having put in the time to make music. So, screw this saving the world stuff. Like, let me pretend I can strum a power chord.
I feel like the game equivalent of that, or like the game version of that, would be the equivalent of that key on the old '80s keyboards, where you just push it and it like kicks out like
Yeah.
Like the auto play thing. Like, we need a game that does that. But I think that there are a lot of people in your same situation, like musically inclined, but there are a lot of hurdles to jump over to learn how to play music. You have to be able to, one, afford to have access to a musical instrument, and not everybody does, and you have to have a way of learning how to play, which not everybody does. or everyone learns in different ways. So it's a huge barrier to entry to learn how to make music, and even with access to all this stuff, like motivation can be a problem. So I was lucky that I had friends to help me, and I figure if I can do something that helps people in that same way, or helps scratch that itch that we all have to be musical beings, then I want to do that.
I like that Black Lagoon in the chat points out that so basically what Patrick wants is Dynasty Warriors Rock Band. Yeah. Yes.
Oh man, Dynasty. What if when you hit guys in Dynasty Warriors, music came out?
Man. Or just if you could play Dynasty Warriors with.
You have to hit the guys in a specific pattern to make the right music. Otherwise, it just sounds like discordant hell noise.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I like the idea of being able to control. I always find it goofy and fun to watch videos of people who play music game or use music peripherals to play games that are not was not natively made for. That's I've never really engaged a lot in them myself, but they're like some of my favorite YouTube holes to go down. Is just you shouldn't be using this DDR mat to play this game. Watch this person beat this game using this DDR mat.
That sounds good.
Alex, what did you get up to this weekend?
Oh, what did I get up to this weekend? Not a ton of gaming. I did play a little bit more of Shadow of Mordor after our live stream on Friday with Vinny. Got a little bit further into that. Killed a couple of guys who had been killing me repeatedly, which was a nice little victory for myself, because, god damn it, some of the guys in that game have killed me like 8 or 9 times, and they get up to this like power level where suddenly now they're like elite captains, and I'm like I'm like they get to a point where they start looking at me like you're not even worth my time, and then walk away instead of actually battling you, which is the most insulting thing. So now I have like this burning rage to kill them all, and I've gotten a little bit of it so far. That I'm still finding that game to be quite enjoyable, but I ended up spending most of the weekend just playing through the entirety of the Forza Horizon main single-player campaign, just to kind of get done with that. And then, as I discovered, that single-player campaign does not end once you get to the finale. It just keeps resetting itself until you do every single championship race in that game, of which there are like 28 per area, and there's like 6 areas, so there are a lot of those. So I might start doing some of the online stuff now, because I don't think I'm going to get through all of those. That's going to take a very long time.
Are they fun to do?
They are. I mean, it's championships. You're just racing against Drivatars, which this game's version of Drivatars seem a little bit better than what Forza's version were, in the sense that they are not constantly wrecking into me and generally causing me to hate the game. So that is definitely a step up. But it's still just a Forza racing game. It just happens to be an exceedingly pretty one, one that handles very well, and one that's just it's just a fun toy to play around. Like, it was a good way to relax over the course of the weekend, because it's just a look at all the pretty vistas, look at all the nice weather effects, look at these dope cars, and I don't really have to think about anything else kind of game.
Yeah, I can't. I'm playing a lot of Shadow of Mordor. That game's really good. That game's really good.
How far in are you now at this point?
I have played about 6 hours, so I've unlocked the Kill the War Chiefs arc of the game, which it sounds like that's probably like a major plot milestone is killing the 4 war chiefs and kind of working your way through the Nemesis system. But goddamn, yeah, I don't. It's such a. It doesn't do a whole lot different than a bunch of games I've played before, but what it does with them, it's really interesting and compelling, and I just want to keep playing it. It's odd, because its individual parts do not seem to be all that much better than the individual games I've played them in, but it's the way it uses all of them that I can't stop playing.
Yeah.
I've also been playing a lot of that game. Like, I'm about where you are as well, Patrick, with the War Chiefs. To me, there was like just the massive amount of things to do, and then the way that you actually do get these little stories about, like, I want revenge on this guy who killed me, who just like popped up out of nowhere, and then the amazing things that come about because of that. I'm also like really, really loving the game.
I would like to echo a sentiment I've seen in at least a couple of reviews for that game, which is that the story content itself is not something I am necessarily super in love with. Like, I don't really like Talion as a character that much. I don't really like, a lot of what's going on in the story, and I do sometimes wish it was a little less beholden to some of the design elements of the Batmans and the Assassin's Creeds of the world. But the core system, the core Nemesis stuff, and just the way everything works together in that game is phenomenal in a way that I especially for a game that is like a first effort in, as much as I am loath to use this word, in a potential franchise, the way all the pieces fit together is really phenomenal, because you go back and look at games like, like the original Assassin's Creed, like there was a cool concept there, but it wasn't really much of a game, whereas this, there's a fair amount of game there, and there's a lot to play through, and there's a lot to do. So much so that like the world still feels very much alive and very vibrant in a very dark and brown way, but still, very, like there's a lot going on there. So I don't know. To me, it's really impressive, like technologically and design wise. I wish I cared a little bit more about the characters and what was actually happening, but it doesn't really matter because of the emergent stuff, the stuff that you're kind of making yourself in those rivalries with the Nemesi, I guess. I don't know what the plural of that word is pretty awesome.
Yeah, one thing that's really interesting about Shadow of Mordor is that so often with most games is that you don't really care about the endless enemies that you're mowing down. Like, they're literally just there to be fodder or ways to build XP or just minor obstacles for you to get around in pursuit of whatever goal that you're after. Like, in 99% of video games, the characters that are vitally important in Shadow of Mordor are not important at all in their respective experience, and that's what I find so fascinating about Shadow of Mordor, is that it actually, like, the overarching threat of like Sauron and blah 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 blah. I don't really care. Like, end up having a deep, passionate relationship with these middling cannon fodder characters that I care way more about decimating whatever they're up to than actually accomplishing the real goal. Like, whenever I go on a little trip with Gollum, I'm like, why is Gollum even in this game? Way to shoehorn a character into this universe just because you want Gollum in the game. But yeah, I want to go after that war chief. Like, I want to go after that elite captain. I want to go after that guy who fucked with me. And it's an amazing way to make you care about an element of the game that is usually just an afterthought. You don't usually think about the dozens of people that you kill along the way to the goal, and Mordor flips that relationship in which you care more about the people you're killing along the way to the goal that you actually don't care that much about.
Yeah, yeah.
To get designy for a moment, I think they really nailed the loop. So once, like the game loop, once I exited the tutorial, it kind of throws you into the whole world, and you can at that point go anywhere, and there's guys roaming around, and you can get into combat, and you can die right away. And I think I was a little overwhelmed by that at first. I tend to get a little overwhelmed by open world games. But then once I had like been through a cycle of like get in a fight, kill a couple guys, and then mess up and die, and then get reset, I saw like, oh, this is the entire game. Like, this like little cycle of things that I'm doing is going to be what the rest of the game is about. And it's really like I already want to come back. Like, it's already really interesting to me. So for me, it was like I call so God of War syndrome, right? God of War syndrome is when you push one button over and over again, and Kratos is doing these amazing epic moves and like throwing chains and ripping creatures apart. And I look at a lot of action games through this lens to see like how God of War syndrome is this. And I think Shadow of Mordor, that element is in service of making the player feel badass, right? Mm-hmm. When you feel badass in Shadow of Mordor, it's because you've had to put in a lot more effort into the timing. Like, it's into the combat systems. So for me, the first like real personal nemesis I had, I was just trying to do the first like bow level up mission. So you're supposed to like headshot 10 guys, and in the middle I got killed, and the guy who killed me became my first nemesis. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to come back to you, but first I need to level up my bow. I went back there, and he was there again and like wanted to take me out. So I inadvertently kept leveling this guy up, and he like got pretty high level pretty fast. And at some point I realized I need to power up in other ways before I face him. So what ended up happening was I saw that he was in this area. I felt leveled up. I went over there, and it turns out there was not one, not two, but 3 other captains there.
Oh boy.
And I think he might have been an elite captain at this point. And I didn't realize this when I dropped in. So I'm like in one of the strongholds, and they funneled me into like this gated combat area, and I'm like fighting for my life. So I ended up like having this huge, epic, stressful battle with all this army of dudes and up to 4 of these captains. And I was like on that last hit, like I had done 1 survival hit, so I was near death at all times. It was like I have to execute this perfectly, and I was able to do it. And at the end of it, it was like, oh, like this rush of adrenaline, and then to come down from it, and like looking at what I did, and then seeing that screen where everyone, like all those characters are dead, was like, I really feel like a legitimate badass at this moment, because that was hard.
It's an actual feeling of accomplishment versus just having the game kind of like make awesome things happen in front of you while you just kind of do the same action. Because yeah, that is definitely one of the things about the combat system I appreciate, is that while it is definitely, you know, in the same vein of the Batman stuff, it's really good about keeping track of, you know, like as long as you're good with your counters, and as long as you pay attention to what's happening in the space around you, you can survive just about any encounter. As long as you're not getting pelted with arrows from like every other direction while you're fighting people, you can usually find a way out of there.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. Like you really feel the risk when you're fighting, and it's hard. It can be hard.
Yeah,
it's really fun when you run into, like, I love when you run into captains or you know, these sort of named creatures when you're just on a regular mission. You know, like it's just, they're just populated in the world, and then you just might happen to come across them, like, and they may just completely screw up your day while you're in the middle of something else that has nothing to do with you tracking down these orcs. And I had this one situation where he started attacking me because he was a part of this encounter. Then he realized, I'm getting the fuck out of here, and so he just starts like fleeing, and I'm like, no, you're down to 3/4 health. Like, I'm not, no. So like I used like the wraith something, I don't know, it's one where you hit like X and A, and then it like does like a ground shake, and it sort of like makes everyone temporarily stunned. So I did that, and this guy is fleeing, and I just recently purchased the power-up that allows you to shoot orcs in the leg and keep them where they are. So then I just pull up my bow and arrow, shoot him in the leg, which sticks him to the ground, and so I just, you know, patiently like take out the rest of the guys that are kind of near me, and then walk over there and then shank him in the back of the neck, and then move down with my life.
That is awesome.
Felt so good, and I'm like, oh, this is horribly violent, but oh, it was really satisfying.
I feel like whenever the captains try to flee at this point, I just chase after them. Like I don't even, like, everyone else no longer matters. It's like, you are not getting away because I came here to get you, and I'm gonna get you.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, they're really smart in, like, the game is so combat oriented, and then all of the side objectives feed into that. So, you know, like, doing the side objectives is not merely just ticking off a box. I mean, there's certainly that element of just, well, there's that thing on the map, I got to get rid of it. But then there's also, you get substantial, you know, experience bonuses that allow you to then buy upgrades for yourself. So you're not just completing things, you're completing things that then make your character more varied and interesting. And so I find myself actually engaging with them. You know, it'll probably follow a similar arc of what I have with most of these games, which is I do everything on the side 3/4 through, and then just go, yep, I've had enough, and then just kind of tunnel through to the end. But right now I'm having a lot of fun doing it, and there's little details that make me engage in the side quests in a way that I never do in other games. So this game has, collect plants and hunt animals. Stuff that as soon as I see that in the game, I am just nope. I have no interest in doing this video game. That is just way too mindless for me to have any interest in. But what Shadow of Mordor does is it lets you know if you're in the vicinity of what you're after. Like, it lets you know, hey, the herb that you're trying to collect is right around here. Hey, the animal that you're trying to slay is right around here. Thus, it takes out a lot of the bullshit oriented around those sort of side missions, which is a lot of just hunting or looking at YouTube videos to find just what you need to do in order to tick off that box. And instead, I will take 30 seconds to look around and see if that plant is nearby or to shoot down those bats, because then it feeds back into me being able to upgrade myself, and the game has reduced the friction necessary in order to find it. It doesn't, marked it with glowing orbs around me, but it has gotten it within, hey, if you just take a minute here, you're going to find what you're looking for. And I fucking love that, and I wish more games would incorporate it.
Totally. Quick informal poll ahead of our inevitable Game of the Year discussions. Ratbag, probably a qualifier for best in character, right?
He's pretty fantastic.
Very few of the characters, the actual story characters, have left much of an impression on me in that game. But Ratbag is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, he's a good name. He's a total dick, and actually, Talion is a total dick too. He is not a very likable character. Not that characters need to be likable necessarily, but it's not like he's a moral gray area bad guy. He just constantly is just sort of a dick.
I don't know. I think that that character is nothing beyond his setup, right?
Right.
He's just unfortunately follows a lot of the tropes that a lot of other games do. He's on some revenge quest and is being taken along for some ride, and there's nothing else really. We don't know anything else about him. Who is this guy? Give me something more. Maybe it'll get there. I haven't finished the game. I hope it does, but I don't know. I'm just totally uninspired by that character.
Given how much you get invested in the experiences you have due to the Nemesis system, it strikes me as a game that would have greatly benefited from allowing the player to create their character. The idea that I could have made and molded my own warrior and then just come up with whatever bullshit reason that I'm tasked with doing whatever bullshit that I am doing in that game because I don't really know what's going on because I don't really care. I think that would have been really amazing if you could have created your own character and invest not only in what the character goes off and does, but in the origins of that character because you actually invested in putting together what they look like and something like that. I think that would have really benefited a game like this.
Most definitely, and I understand why they wanted to try and create some sort of greater narrative. They wanted to tell an actual story and not just kind of an NPC or not NPC a character avatar sort of story. But it doesn't, at least so far for me, because I'm probably just a little bit behind where you two are in the game. Nothing about that character, nothing about his wraith buddy. None of that storyline has really grabbed me in any way, shape, or form. But again, for me, it hasn't really mattered too much because I've been able to make enough of an interesting story out of the emergent elements of the game to keep me more than satisfied. Being let down by a game's A script is not really a new thing, especially in recent years. But it's rare that the player script is able to make up for that in a significant way, and I think that's why everyone is so into Shadow of Mordor, is because they've been able to make their own fun and their own interesting stuff out of this game, versus a lot of other games where it's yeah, you can kind of do that stuff, but basically you're just interacting with the same AI stuff that is what it is.
Samantha, given that you are a game developer yourself, or so you tell me,
I play one on TV.
This is certainly something that comes up when, as critics, when you play a game, can you not help but just start dissecting how it's made when you are playing it and trying to figure out how the systems work in a way that goes beyond just, this is important to me as the player to play the game well?
I do find that happening. Yeah, I mean, when I started working at Unity, I got really interested in how games are made and how they're made at a technical level. So since then, I've been kind of like, well, let me look at this texture and like how are they doing the lighting and what's going on with the shading here, and so there's that aspect of it. I think like when I mentioned a little bit earlier about how I was disoriented at first, and then once I got through one whole loop of like, spawn, fight, die, respawn. That was when the sort of language of that game became familiar to me. I mean, I really love it when I get so invested in a game that I don't naturally think about those things. Like I still haven't finished The Wolf Among Us, which I have been needing to for a long time. But that was one where it's just like, sorry?
What episode are you on?
I finished 2.
Okay.
And so I waited for all of them to come out, and then I've just been so busy working. I need to get back to finish that. So that was an experience where it's like, I didn't read the comic book. I had no basis for like what are these characters all about? What is this world? And all those elements of that game were so interesting that I found myself, already comfortable with the design language of The Walking Dead. Like, what is this story and what is happening here? And just I found it so compelling. But the sad truth is I don't get to play that many games anymore. I also want to, the Road Not Taken. I don't know if you guys have played Road Not Taken.
I did, yeah.
But that was a game where I found, I don't know if this is specific to like a design thinking, but figuring out how that game worked and the rules and how to min-max it and or how to optimize your play sessions with it, I found so enjoyable. I think that game's brilliant.
That was a game that confounded a lot of people that I know, and I remember reading the comments on our quick look at a lot of people's like, I played this for like 20 minutes, I could not deal with it, and so I kind of walked away from it. I had that same reaction initially when I started playing. It was like, I don't understand any of this. This is the systems here make no sense. I don't know how any of this fits together. But the longer I played it, the more rewarding it became, and the more enjoyable it became. Eventually, it became so hard that I kind of backed off from it as other games started coming out. But that one is definitely what I would call one of my more pleasant surprises of the year thus far, in terms of both just surprising gameplay and also just kind of being something totally out of left field.
Yeah. So I mean, as a game creator, like I really want to get surprised and be delighted by what games do. So I guess there's a couple of things I can talk about. Although I did visit Valve last week. Have you guys heard about the Valve VR demo?
No, but if you were going to the future, I would say I'd heard about it because you're going to tell us what it is.
Okay, so in January, Valve hosted Steam Dev Days, and they started giving this demo there. I started hearing rumblings that this thing was really good, but no one could really explain why it was so good. So I finally got to go check it out for myself. I have an interest in VR. I visited the Cast AR, the augmented reality kind of glasses platform up in Woodinville, and I've worked on the Fire Phone, which is the Amazon Fire Phone, which is a thing that has cameras that tracks your head to like create this illusion of a 3D world inside this device. So I have this interest in VR experiences, and this VR demo at Valve was profound in a way that is actually very hard to describe. The goggle, it's custom hardware, and it's probably represents where VR will be in a couple of years in terms of like consumer level hardware. There was something about the fidelity and like the correctness of the perspective and the little details, like the subtle cues in motion. So first, it's a room that you can walk around in. So it tracks your head as you move through this space. So you have this ability to kind of feel your body and kind of how you exist in this virtual world. And it's the first time where I really felt that this environment that I'm in, like I feel convinced that if I were to reach out and touch it, that I'm expecting that I'll feel something on my fingers. So that's had me really, really excited about working on something for this platform. And like I don't know if anyone in the Giant Bomb community is interested in Oculus or VR or anything like that, but I feel like it's important to talk about that this VR technology experience that I had is probably going to be a bigger deal than people realize in, I don't know, up to 5 years from now.
Did you get the sense that what made this demo different had more to do with the hardware or the software? Because I feel like there's, what we're going to see going forward is that as good as the hardware gets, it's probably certain software cues built into these experiences that end up separating them. But did you get a sense of where that fell in this one?
Yeah, I would say that this was mostly hardware. Actually, the way I want to describe it is that the hardware opened the door for software to do new things. So they have sub-millimeter head tracking. So little subtle movements, like you probably can't even see it on the camera. I'm like shaking my head a little bit. It tracks all that. And the frame rate's extremely high. So like motion sickness is not really a thing with this so far. I mean, like if it loses your head tracking, then you can get like a jarring experience, and that's a little nauseating. But the hardware, it was like the hardware allowed the software generated spaces to be like, I felt like I could actually be inhabiting this space, and so that way when you go into software driving kind of realistic environments or surreal environments, like there was one that was kind of very Tron looking, and it was like, I know that what I'm looking in front of me is not real, and I know that this environment is not even realistic, but I'm still convinced, like I still am like compelled to explore this space, and like so it's room based, so you can't just walk forever. So if you're dropped into a large space, even though cognitively you know that it doesn't extend that far, it's like I also wanted to run. Like I wanted to run through this like weird forest thing. And just like having that dichotomy going on was super interesting. Like this is like psychology stuff. Or it's almost like, try to think back about the first time you heard about the internet. Like there's a bunch of computers connected together, and like you can look at one computer from another. Like, what is this? This sounds weird. But now, of course, the internet's ubiquitous. Like I also feel that this is similar. I don't know. Valve has been saying you have to try it for yourself, and they call it this thing called presence. And it's fascinating. I think about sensory replacement, where getting closer to actually Matrix style, where I'm existing in the real world, but I'm also dually existing in this virtual world. And I might be thinking about my relationships with virtual characters in a way that is analogous to like real people. It's pretty fascinating. Like it's brain trickery. I don't know what's going on, but I'm incredibly excited about it.
Could you do anything in the room, or is it you're just like other mechanics, or it's literally just an immersion sort of experience to try and demonstrate what the hardware is capable of?
This demo was only walking around. They did this one trick where they put you in a virtual room that is the same shape with the same furniture as the room you're actually standing in. So then, like, the shape of the room is the same in the real world and the virtual world, and like the lamp in the software is the same place where the lamp in the real world is. So then it's like, oh, if I look at this virtual lamp, I can reach out and touch this lamp, and I actually feel that there's a lamp there, but I can't see my hand. So there was like definitely like an input. There's new problems to solve in terms of input. So I don't know if the right thing is like controllers. I get most excited about like seeing my hands and seeing my body and like being able to touch things. So that's kind of, if I were working on this technology, I would try to push it in that direction for like let's like get rid of the controller completely and actually have you touching and interacting with things. Of course, having a thing to feel, to interact with is also part. I've seen some VR demos that are like you're holding lightsabers. So I think holding a thing that you use to interact with virtual characters is an opportunity. But yeah, I don't know. They also have controller-based stuff. I think that they're working on controller support and trying to bring this into like a consumer like home situation environment.
I'm looking forward to the first consumer demo, which I assume will be you walking over a giant sort of spherical planet-like landscape that is shaped like Gabe Newell's head.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's also the first hyper-realistic VR knife demo, because you just keep finding knives everywhere and you can use them to cut things.
The VR future is very bright, Alex.
It is.
So Samantha, the other thing you've been up to is also on a Valve platform, but not VR. But you are, what, like a full month now into early access on Sentris?
About 6 weeks now. Yeah, I shipped I shipped to early access on an Alpha 1 the week before PAX. So I did a patch and then I went to PAX. I'm shipping Alpha 2 today. So that'll be the first major update to the game since it's been on early access. It's interesting. The response, just watching, as a developer, you talk to other developers, you sort of hear about, like, well, what kinds of things can I expect from shipping? And early access is shipping, but it's kind of not, because the game's not finished. And so we're in this kind of unexplored territory, and for me, it's been really fantastic. Like, I would say that, Steam is not the same as it was, where Steam used to be a platform where once you release, then you have literally millions of players, and it's not that anymore. So Sentris has thousands of players, and a lot of those are from the Kickstarter backers. But there have been people playing the game, giving me feedback, and like Let's Plays have started to happen, and different languages of, like, people in different countries speaking different languages are doing videos of the game. And that just watching all that happen is really fascinating. And so I'm kind of in this, like, the game so far up to this point has not recouped its expenses. So and I wasn't expecting it to until I'm kind of done with it. But I am in this weird place where, like, okay, well, I'm practicing shipping, I'm iterating on the game, putting it out there. And what's going to happen with each of these builds as I add features, and what kinds of things are people going to respond to? So it's an interesting spot to be in, just because I still feel like I have so much to do, and talking to people, like, everyone has kind of different ideas about what they like about it and where they want to see it improved. And I can only do so much as one person, so I'm doing my very best, but I'm also really grateful to be in this situation rather than, like, in a publisher type situation where I'm obligated to hit certain milestones based on some deal from some funding. I really think that being accountable to my players and to my backers is where I want to be, because I'm making the game for them, right? I'm making the game for people to play, and one of the reasons I wanted to start shipping was I started to get nervous that maybe this high concept game is just not something that people actually want. So in a way, it's finding out, like, do people actually want this? And maybe they don't. And in that case, maybe it doesn't make any money, or maybe it doesn't recoup its losses, and I figure out a way to move on. And it could still go in the other direction, where it has something that people really love. And then the community grows. I would love to see that. I would love to see more people making music with the game. Yeah, so it's kind of a weird spot to be, but I'm happy.
It seems like one of the tensions with early access would be, you mentioned that, you're working with this community and you're trying to get attention to the game, because ultimately, you're making the game not just for the players, but you need a sustainable living, and you're hoping to make a game that makes money so you can make more games, and the whole loop works out for everyone. Is that you must be then, or maybe you're not, tell me if I'm wrong, prioritizing features that the community wants that maybe gets the game some more attention so that more people play it. Like, it just seems like you're constantly having to also be a community PR and marketing person while you're developing the game, as opposed to the usual relationship, which is that you make the game, then you put it out, and that stuff kind of all happens at the end. Whereas now you're doing it the entire way, or at least a significant chunk of the game's development.
Right. Yes, that's definitely a part of it. It's so this build that's going out today has a tutorial, and it's the first build that has a tutorial. And I've sort of known that the game needs a tutorial at some point, but I've also worked pretty hard to try to make the game simple enough that people can discover through just playing it, pushing buttons and seeing what happens. And so that I kind of always assumed people would want to engage with the game in that way. And some people do, but most people don't. And so the overwhelming piece of feedback from this first alpha was, I'm looking at this, I don't understand it, how does it get played, like, what is this all about? Even Brad had trouble with trying to figure out how it worked, when he showed off on the quick look. So if I could have, doing a tutorial takes time, and if I could have, I would have waited until the game was basically, at release candidate to say, like, here's the final shape of the game, I'm going to teach you how to play this. But it needed it now, so I added it now.
Yeah, that seems like that's certainly figuring out how to make sure that people understand the game, even though as a developer that there are certain elements that just don't make sense until later. Systems come online and game ideas come together as the development goes forward. But early access demands that it makes a little more sense up front. And for some games that works better than others. And I think that's been the ultimately what's been interesting about early access is seeing which games that doesn't really work for, and that people have a hard time being okay with a game that is sort of fundamentally broken and weird, because a lot of games are broken and weird until much later.
Yeah. And I can understand why people would be hesitant about buying a game on early access, because it's like, well, there's not a consistent level of trust established, right? Like, I'm a new developer, so I'm prioritizing, showing to my players that yes, I can ship, and I am like doing this, delivering this, and I would actually encourage people that are skeptical to continue to be skeptical, and watch and see what happens. But like, and every team is different, of course. I mean, like Rust, massively successful financially and community-wise before exiting early access, and then they decided to reset the whole game, and they actually decided to begin a new engine, or to do such serious refactoring that it would basically be building a new game. So it's a way for, I think that early access is a good thing, because enthusiasts can support creators in a way where they get, it's not Kickstarter where your money could never come to, like, your investment could never, what am I trying to say? You could back something without the guarantee that it will be finished. That's been the reality on Kickstarter. On early access, you can look at what your money's going to, where it is, and then decide if you want to. And I think that both of those roles in the industry and in the community of people that play games are important. But I think that early access is great because you have to be shipping. Like, you have to have a product, you have to have a game experience that works before you put it out there. And I think that we've seen that, game projects that just don't, we've seen a couple of game projects fail on early access because of the low level of quality, or the delta between promises and the reality. And so I think it's a super interesting time to be making games. And as always, if anyone's in the chat watching, curious about making games, do it, because it's worth it, and it's really hard, but it's so worth it. And then there's these channels that support people. So,
what is the single best or most surprising piece of feedback you've gotten since the game has been in early access? And simultaneously, what is the single worst, most useless piece of feedback you've gotten since it hit early access?
The worst feedback was people complaining about the price.
Right.
Especially the way that Steam converts into prices in other currencies is different from the way Humble does. So people complained about that like in hour one. I just didn't find that helpful at all.
Right.
The surprising piece of feedback has been it's an abstract game, and people, before they get to play it and understand what it is, they make a lot of different assumptions about how it's played and what different things do. So watching people try to pick it apart and explain it to each other has been really interesting. The other interesting thing is that I haven't received really as much feedback as I thought I would. This is, and maybe this is just an indicator that people just want me to make an awesome game and they trust me to do it. I hope that's the case, and that's what I want to do. But I've also been surprised at, it seems like a low volume of feedback. And there's a few different places to post feedback about the game, and I keep eyes on everything. And I mean, I also have to say that it's been really positive response. Like, the people that like it really like it. And I've been really, really glad to see that, because as a creative person, I'm sure this happens with you guys too, you just look at what you do so much that you become blind to what's good about it. So then, like, it's been good for me to have those reminders that, hey, people still do like this game. Like, they still do think it's interesting, even though I'm almost bored to death of it.
Oh, yeah, no, the most common thing amongst people that create anything, whether you write stuff or you make video games, is that you hate everything you make. It is total dog shit, and it is the worst thing you've ever done, until someone says, hey, it's all right. I'm like, okay, yeah. I'll take it. All right, I'll take it. That's fine. That's better than dog shit.
But then if someone says, I don't know, it's not that great, then you're like, oh, my life is over.
Yep. Now, it's 25 pieces of, like, hey, I really like this. I still hate myself. One piece of, it's terrible. Oh, God, what a monster. It's true.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how long you do this stuff. We all have the same complex, it seems.
Yeah, but I also want to be clear that positive and negative feedback to creative works, it actually affects the lives of the creators in a significant way. Like, after I appeared on the Bombcast. So first I want to say that I've been a viewer and a fan and a subscriber to Giant Bomb for a long time. And so being on the Bombcast was like, holy shit, kind of dream come true, bucket list moment. And then afterward, even though we talked about some issues about queerness and like GamerX2, I was expecting that there would be some backlash. But what happened was the positive wave of support totally flooded out all the negative responses and all the negative energy from the trolls. And watching all that positive feedback was hugely substantial to me, and motivating, and like okay, I can do this. Like, yes, I haven't shipped at that point. I hadn't shipped yet. I was like, yes, people are actually like, people like me. Like, you really like me. Who's that? So that's a big deal. And I have friends. I don't want to name any names because I don't have permission. But one of my good friends who has created an award-winning game has silently, without seeking attention, chose to exit the game industry entirely. And it just breaks my heart, because one of the things that contributed was that he felt sort of conflicted about his work, and he felt conflicted about like the price, and so he made it free. And then when he made his game free, like all this negative, like people just started hating more, and he couldn't deal with all the negative energy. And he's like, this is not worth it. I'm taking my game down, and I'm going to get a job in a bakery, and I'll catch you guys around. And it just makes me so sad, because this is someone that I want to work with, like a talented artist who I feel, I want to collaborate with people, and I don't have that many opportunities. So having lost that opportunity because of the way that the community brought their sense of entitlement and turned that into negative energy and directed it right at him, it fucked up. It fucked up his life. and it makes me really sad. And I don't know what to do about it besides just tell him like, hey, I'm here if you ever want to like hang out or something.
It makes me greatly appreciative, one, to hear that our audience, by and large, treated you very well, because, you never know sometimes, but I always feel like our community in general is, tries to maintain an air of positivity that sometimes I don't see in a lot of other online communities, so I'm glad to hear that. Second off, telling that story, I will never, ever begrudge anyone for quitting over the shit that goes on in this industry sometimes, because it is psychologically taxing, it is creatively taxing, it is, shit's a hot mess right now and has been for a while, and so I completely understand that, but it's heartening to hear from someone like yourself saying that, to me it's worth it to stay and to keep trying to make stuff and keep trying to do this, because we need people to do that, because if everyone just quits, then we end up with an even more homogenous and even less interesting game industry than we've had. And I hope you continue to maintain that attitude and continue to work on the stuff you want to work on, because I think that shit's super important, and it's important that people stick with it. Again, if you can't handle it and it's too much, you have every right to move on. I have certainly thought about going and finally, living my dream of becoming a long-haul trucker a few times here and there, but...
big rigs in real life.
Yeah! I'm not even joking. I have seriously thought about that a few times. If the trucking industry weren't somehow in even more tatters than the video game industry, maybe I might have done it by now. But, in reality, I stick with it because I still think there's something here worth sticking with.
I think one of the things I've told people when I think there's they call it the silent majority, which I think is totally apt, is that a lot of people don't want to get into the mudslinging part, right? Like they don't, it's not necessarily the most useful thing when you see a bunch of negativity, to go and like wrestle it out with those people, like to go in there and be equally negative, or to yell with them and try and reason with them. That's not necessarily always a tactic that works, and I don't blame people for not wanting to kind of caught in the crossfire. But what I do encourage people to do is that, like, when you give feedback to people that make things and you enjoy it, like, we joke about how the 25 positive comments don't matter and the one negative one does, but that's mostly us joking. Like, it really does matter when people send those meaningful pieces of feedback, or just a nice, like, hey, like, I really appreciated that you made this thing, thanks for doing that. I print out a handful of those and keep those in my backpack, and then kind of rotate through them as new ones come in, because I like to remind myself that stuff is there, and that there are lots of people that appreciate what I do, and stop worrying about the little bits that don't. And what I'd say to the audience is just take a little bit of time out of your day to write that stuff. When you appreciate something that happens or something that someone creates, just either it's a tweet or an email or whatever, like, vocalize the fact that you enjoyed it, because it reminds people that there's an audience out there that does appreciate it. And while voting with your money and stars in a review system or something are nice, like, showing yourself as a human being and writing something to someone really means a lot.
That's so true. And I mean, even a big project like Shadow of Mordor, like, this is probably thousands of people that worked on this game, but they're all people, right? It's not like automatons building these products. So the wonderful thing about the game industry is that so many creators are accessible. So, like, look up some people on Twitter that made Shadow of Mordor, and, like, if you're inclined, and please be inclined, write them a nice message about how much you enjoyed it. Because I know people here in Seattle that were crunching on that game harder and longer than I have been on mine, and that's like a job for them, right? That's not like, it's not, for me, it's my company, like, it's my career and my livelihood. But for them, it's like they're getting a paycheck, but they have a boss telling them, like, you need to come and work the next 5 weekends. So telling them that you like their work too is also important. I feel like if we can, like, get this kind of gravy train of positive energy, like, just spreading out everywhere, that we can just, like, swallow up anything else that comes our way. But it has to be, like, a collective thing. So maybe I will as well. Like, I also need to, like, send some tweets to people about, like, you made a fucking awesome game.
I try to do that like when I read an article or something. You know, like I save a lot of stuff in Instapaper and then read it weeks later. And I try and make an effort to, you know, once I've read something, even if it's like some writer for the New Yorker that who is like way more talented than me, is probably not listening to me, probably doesn't even check his Twitter account, but it's like what, you know, maybe he will see it or maybe she
I know
will
you're
see
talking
it.
about.
And it's just nice to do stuff like that, and you know, it doesn't feel like a lot, like, you know, it's one small drop in a huge pond, but that stuff does add up to mean something, and it's good to keep that perspective, I think.
Totally.
Well, Alex, what are you up to this week as we start to wind down this show? What do you got going on in New York?
So I got some games that we're going to be quick looking here over the next week. I've got Costume Quest 2, which I've been playing around with. NBA 2K15 just came in, so
Wait,
we're going to
is
start
Costume Quest out this week?
Yes, it's out on Tuesday.
'Tis the season.
Yep. So that's out. I got that stuff to play around with. Vinny is, I think, going to be going with our good friend Tony to New York Comic-Con later this week. So we might not be recording quite as much as we have been, but at the same time, we'll have at least a few things good to go. What about you, Patrick?
Some people in the chat are saying there's going to be a new Twin Peaks on Showtime in 2016.
Did that actually get announced?
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, there was talk last week around, I guess, that anniversary. Anniversary set. Yeah, it's happening. It's done. It's according to everyone on Twitter I'm seeing. This is an announced thing.
Well, there's my official signal to watch more than the pilot for Twin Peaks.
Yeah, holy shit.
I'm in the same spot. I haven't watched more than the pilot.
Yeah, I know it is. It is. If I was to list a series of television shows that I should watch because I know I will love them and feel deeply guilty about not having watched them, the top two are probably Twin Peaks and The Wire. I've seen the first season of The Wire, and I got really bored in the second season of The Wire, which I know everyone tells me the second season of The Wire is kind of boring, and you should get through it, and then the rest is amazing, and then season 2 you'll appreciate by the end.
No, at hour 30 it gets really good.
I really liked the first season of The Wire. I just got really bored in the second season.
Was I the only one who liked the second season? I mean, it's not the best by any stretch. I mean, seasons 3 and 4 are far, far better, but I thought 2 was fine.
I haven't seen it, actually. I have the same two shows as Patrick. I have to watch both of those.
But okay. Now I want to be on this Twin Peaks train. I don't want to miss a bandwagon. So I'm gonna get on this bandwagon and I'm gonna watch some Twin Peaks. I'm gonna turn this show off in a second and watch, or rather write, my review for Alien Isolation. I finished that late on Friday night, and then kind of gave myself the weekend to digest it, and I'm gonna work on writing that review this morning. I moved back Spookin' with Scoops from today to tomorrow because a lot of folks wanted to watch me play that game, but it's not going to be scary to watch that game with the content I've already seen. So the DLC should be up tomorrow afternoon when the PlayStation Store updates. So we'll download that, and that's what we'll do for Spookin' with Scoops on Tuesday night. So you can look forward to that if you are a premium member of the site. Worth Reading will go up after I finish this as well. And then there's other stuff. Other stuff is going on. Stuff is happening.
Anyone in LA? Indicate is this weekend. I'll be in LA on Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
It's in Culver City, right?
Culver City, yeah.
Yeah, I went to Indicate like 4 years ago. It's awesome. Culver City is a really neat little area that feels very unlike LA.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like its own little island, but it's one of the coolest gatherings of game culture that I've had a chance to be a part of. And if you were in the area, I would highly recommend heading there for a day and checking it out. But yeah, that's gonna be a show. That's gonna do it. So if you like Samantha, if you like video games, you should buy Sentris early access.
If you like abstract musical puzzle games, you should take a look at Sentris. Although maybe wait a little bit later today to see the
alpha. Stop qualifying it. Just go buy. Just say yes. Go buy my game.
It's the best game ever. Go buy my game. Make me rich.
There you go. There it is. That's all you got. There you go.
So
you're the sales technique.
Yeah, you're bad at this pitching game, Smith. You're all like, oh, I want to be modest,
I'm-
maybe check out your games if you're interested.
But that's
Drop
who
some
I am.
swagger.
That's who I am. Yeah. Well, hey, if you want to talk swagger, let me tell you something, champ. You better enjoy that belt. You better enjoy that belt while you have it, because once you and I get in that 64-bit ring, it's over. It's over.
The wolf will gladly give you your championship opportunity. The wolf is not concerned.
Oh, all right. That sounds like a challenge.
I gotta stop this before this gets out of control. I gotta
Cheers,
stop this.
guys.
All right, Samantha, thanks for joining us
Thank you.
on the morning show, and Alex, I will talk to you on Friday.
Oh.